Hello, listeners. It's Gunter Swoboda here with some exciting news. We're on the lookout for sponsors to join us on our incredible journey with Inspire Change with Gunter. If your organization cares deeply about meaningful conversations around masculinity, self development, and mental health, we'd love to partner with you. Our podcast has a wonderful, dedicated audience committed to personal growth and positive social change. By sponsoring Inspire Change with Gunter, your brand will connect with listeners who truly value thoughtful discussion and support initiatives that promote real transformation. We're incredibly proud to be ranked number one in Australia and number 5 in the USA on FeedSpot's top men's mental health podcasts. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to Miranda Spiegner Sapon, our showrunner and executive producer. We'd love to explore how we can work together to inspire change. Now, thank you for your continued support, and let's keep inspiring change together.
You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspire Change with Gunter. I'm your host. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspire Change with Gunter, the show that explores how inner work becomes outer change. I'm your host, Gunter Swoboda. I'm a psychologist, an author, and content creator. And I'm going to continue with the thread that I've been doing over the last few weeks about the importance of philosophy in our lives. You may not think it, but it's there. It doesn't matter whether you've got a degree or whether you're a carpenter or whatever it is that you do in life. The fact that you think brings with it ideas of philosophy. And that's one of the beauties of it. Now, obviously, you can take it a step further and begin to learn about logic and reason and critical thinking. But I'm just going to give you a few hints about how this operates in the real world, irrespective of what some business people and politicians try to tell you. One of the things that I want to draw out in today's session is that I'm going to argue that our inner lives shape the survival of institutions, especially institutions that we all rely on. So take today as a guided walk from the micro to the macro, from your breath and the choices to the policy and norms that keep our society healthy and running. So, a quick truth that I return to again and again is that the quality of our lives depends in no small part on the quality of our society and its institutions. If a hospital treats you like a number, if a school sorts rather than develops, if a university becomes a marketplace of status and meal tickets rather than a commons of inquiry, we all feel it to the bone. So, question: what really keeps these institutions humane? Okay, we can talk about funding, leadership, policy, but upstream of those are worldviews, philosophies about what a human being is for. If your deep story says people are competitors before they are neighbours, you get one set of institutions. If your story says people are relational before they are transactional, you get another. Get it? Now, our theories ultimately turn into policies. Our policies begin to shape practice, and practice becomes human culture. That's the chain. Now, this is important to think about when there is such a strong and powerful division in our culture between what people refer to as the right and left. So, let me sketch a concise philosophy that guides us. Ultimately, let's start with universities, which are there really to cultivate truth-seeking, critical inquiry, and the courage to revise our minds. The capacity to change our thinking is fundamentally critical. Their purpose isn't simply credentialing. It's thinking together so a society doesn't fall for its own propaganda. It's one of the reasons that fascists always want to, control education. We're watching it right now in the United States, where Republicans are putting out credos to teachers and lecturers about what they can and cannot teach. They talk about the educators not indoctrinating, which is ironic because that's exactly what they're doing. Now, let me take hospitals. They fundamentally exist to honour the dignity of the vulnerable. When we're ill, when we're requiring support, surgery, it's not that a hospital is there for profit or throughput. It is all about care. And it's got to be competent, compassionate, and equitable. Again, let me draw on places like the United States, where the health system, although touted as one of the best in the world, is an abomination to human values. Let me turn to schools. Now, schools in many respects exist to nurture capacities. They're there to nurture attention, imagination, discernment, cooperation. Not just to sort winners and losers. Their purpose is formation, not infiltration or filtration. So, begin to take notice of the through line. These institutions are trust engines. They generate social trust by teaching us to argue in good faith, to look after one another when we're weak, and to pass on knowledge, not ideology, with humility. Philosophically, that means we must prioritise practical wisdom. What is good to do here? And we need to do that over mere technical efficiency. How fast can we do it? When efficiency is untethered from ethics, we get brittle, low-trust systems, communities. When efficiency serves as human ends, such as truth, care and formation, we achieve resilient, high-trust systems. So, how does your inner life keep a university honest, a hospital humane, or a classroom alive? And this is where the Making Good Men framework earns its keep. Most of us carry with us a constructed self. Performances learned from culture to be invulnerable, to dominate, to fix quickly, to don't feel. That mask often aligns with what I call the 5 pillars of patriarchy: territory, hierarchy, acquisition, competition, and combativeness. It's efficient in a fight, but it's corrosive in a relationship, in a clinic, or at a seminar. Making Good Men Great invites a move towards the authentic self, values-aligned, emotionally literate, collaborative. And what does that mean in practice? It means trading brittle certainty for thoughtful curiosity, for moving from domination to dialogue, and by replacing win-lose with learn and repair. When men do this work, something beautiful happens. The room changes. Supervision rooms, classrooms, ward rooms, ward rounds. Conflict doesn't vanish, but it becomes workable. I talk about being able to use conflict creatively. You can supervise people without shaming them. You can teach without humiliating students. You can treat a patient without retreating behind cold neutrality. Remember, personal transformation isn't a private luxury. It actually is a civic maintenance. Now, here's an interesting turn, and I want to throw this in because someone asked me recently, in the current climate, is it reasonable to argue that wherever right-wing parties govern, social cohesion erodes and violence rises? The short answer actually is no, not as a universal rule. A more defensible conditional claim is that when right-of-centre governments enact a specific bundle, fiscal austerity that widens inequality, deregulated firearm access, and polarising ethno-nationalist rhetoric, you do tend to see lower social cohesion and high risks of aggression and violence. When conservative parties govern with strong welfare states, tight gun controls, and high trust institutions, that pattern is weaker or, in fact, often completely abstinent. Now, why does the conditional claim hold in many contexts? Well, firstly, austerity and social conditions where there's large cuts to public spending often precede spikes in social distress. Worse population health, stalled life expectancy gains, and unrest, especially in poorer communities. When the social floor drops, people just don't suffer privately. They suffer publicly, wherein public trust frays. Firearms policy and lethal conflict. Natural experiments in the US suggest permissive stand your ground and right to carry laws increase homicides. More weapons in everyday disputes raise the lethality of ordinary conflict. What about polarising rhetoric and targeted harm? And we're seeing this very clearly in the United States. Trump chastises judges all the time. So what have we had in the last 48 hours? A bomb attack on a judge. So when leaders legitimise out-group hostility, hate incidents follow. Digital amplification pours accelerant on that fire. Dial down the cues and the temperature drops. Now here's the caveat that really, really matters. Institutions moderate risk. The Nordic countries, with alternating centre-left and centre-right governments, maintain high social trust and low homicide. Strong welfare regimes, rule-bound policing, and a culture of procedural fairness act like shock absorbers in a car. For example, Sweden's right-leaning coalition governed during a sharp drop in homicides in 2024, reminding us that year-to-year volatility exists and context matters. Inequality is the mediator. Decades of political science work links equality and clean government to higher social trust, the backbone of cohesion, regardless of which party is in power. So the bottom line is this. It is too sweeping to say that conservative rule equals violence. A stronger evidence-based thesis is that where conservative governments enact austerity, relax gun regulations, and mainstream nativist frames, social trust declines and violence risks rise. Where they preserve egalitarian welfare, strict gun laws, and inclusive rhetoric, those harms don't reliably materialise. Now, we have this problem in Australia where the right-wing party is looking to relax gun laws. Now, this is a really, really scary thing because we have, relatively speaking, low gun crime. It's risen, but exactly to what degree and in what context, at this point, I'm not sure. I'm going to do a search on that. So, for us, in the context of this show, the take-home is practical. Policy bundles and leader rhetoric either underwrite or undermine the trust that universities, hospitals, and schools need to function. Personal transformation helps, but it works best inside a system designed for our dignity. So when politicians begin to tinker with university administration, educational administration, and hospital administration to essentially bias profit rather than care, we are seeing a serious problem. And we have a classic example in the area that I live in with a hospital where they've had to really call in auditors to check out what's going on because the public care in that hospital had some really serious flaws, whereas the private aspect of the hospital didn't. So how do we articulate this in our day-to-day life? Well, we can talk about a preservation kit. That is practices for people and ultimately policy. So let me offer a simple two-level kit: personal practices that scale up and policy guardrails that keep the water clean. Personal practices, I talk about 3 wards. The University of You, which is all about curiosity. So once a day, ask yourself, what belief of mine might be wrong? Then seek out one credible source that could update you. Micro-humility keeps collective inquiry alive. The second one is the hospital of the heart, which is about care. Practice a 90-second compassion round before difficult conversations. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6, or if you do it my way, which is simpler, inhale 5, hold 5, exhale 5. Those for those of you who are numerically challenged. Silently name the other person's possible fear. Physiologically down-regulating yourself is not indulgence, it's institutional hygiene. That's when we stop having school ground bully stuff happening within Parliament or within, gatherings. The third one is the school of we, formation. Each week, teach one thing you've learned to someone else with patience. After all, we are a connected species. Teaching develops the social muscle that schools need, the capacity to enlarge another person's competence without shrinking their dignity. Now, what are the policy guardrails? And I talk about the 3 keeps. Keep people whole. Invest predictably in health, education, and research, especially in low-trust communities. 2, keep the weapons down. Adopt and maintain gun safety regimes that reduce everyday lethality. And again, when politicians are pushing to undo that, we need to push back. And keep rhetoric human. Leaders model strong spine, soft front, firm on values, spacious with opponents. Make a de-escalation a civic norm. When these surround our institutions, Your personal growth multiplies rather than gets crushed by the system. So, what do I want to say in closing? Well, let me give you a 1-minute practice as we close. Name one way your constructed self shows up at work or home this week. Choose one setting, a team meeting, a family check-in, a difficult email, where you'll experiment with your authentic self. Slow breathing, clear your values, and use kinder language. Then ask, if everyone did a little more of this, how would our schools, clinics, and campuses feel in 6 months? Remember, universities, hospitals, and schools are not buildings. They are relationships under a roof. Protect the relationships, and we protect the roof. We've had a significant increase in violence in hospitals. And we've had a significant increase in parents essentially verbally attacking teachers. We need to rethink this. So, coming to the close, let me thank you for listening to Inspire Change with Gunter. If you think or if you feel that this episode was helpful, please follow, rate, and share it with someone who cares about inner work and public life. Next time, I want to explore another level of this. And from there on, I'm going to sign off, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep inspiring change. This is me signing off.
Hello and welcome. This week, we take a look at both the USA and around the globe. For the US, we would like to express our gratitude to those of you listening in New York City and give you a great big congratulations for bringing New York all the way to number 2 on the USA's top 10 listeners list. Thank you to all of you for inspiring positive social change. Next, we take a look at the top 10 global listeners list, and we want to thank our listeners in both Dunedin on New Zealand's South Island and on the North Island in the city of Tauranga for making New Zealand number 5. Congratulations! Thank you to not only all of our New Zealand listeners, but all of our listeners. Thank you for tuning in and supporting positive global social change. This makes you a part of Gunter's efforts in transforming not only men's lives, but lives in general, and we're grateful you've joined us. I, Devonna Prinzi, the co-executive producer, and our showrunner, Miranda Spigner-Sapone, sincerely thank you and ask that you please take the time to like, follow, subscribe, and share, as your efforts make a difference to everyone here at Inspire Change with Gunter. Please remember, if you want to share your story of social change, feel free to reach out to the show directly. Please see the show notes for the contact information. But most importantly, keep inspiring positive social change.
Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.guntersvoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com.